happy to welcome our interview guest, Ginger McNulty, founder of Hornets.com and currently working with Zach Bonney, building a consortium under the title Not With the Program. Now, what inspired you to expose institutional abuse?
Well, excuse me. I had been involved in drug policy reform for a number of years. While I was raising kids, it was an avocation. It wasn't a full-time thing. It was an interest. And when it was really Brother Jeb that inspired me. It was Brother Jeb Bush. When he took office as governor of Florida, I had been aware of the Bush family affiliation with the Semblers, and I went, okay, that's a little terrifying. And then when he came out with his flagship program to put $100 million into juvenile drug rehabilitation by the state of Florida, I went, oh, hell no. It's not my imagination. You know, this really is something very dangerous.
Right.
And I went and started contacting all of my drug policy reform friends, and they went, oh yeah, we know. And just, you know, we can't get anybody's attention. Yes, we know it's tragic. We know it's horrible. We've told the story. We can't get any resonance. But you ought to talk to this guy, Wes Fager. He's writing a book about it. And then I didn't meet him, but I started talking to Wes, and he sent me a copy of his book in the mail, and I read it, and I went, holy crow. I am familiar with all of the names of all of the people behind Straight Incorporated that I was never privy to when I was in the program or in the cult. I know these names from, these are the most heretical, crazy, maniacal, sadistic drug warriors that want to do things like, you know, spray a genetically engineered fungus over wide swaths of agricultural and residential and city land just to kill these 3 plants that they think are evil. And to find out that those people were primary core people in the program. Because when programs like this came out, and many, many other, I mean, just crazy things. Like when Washington, D.C. voters voted to legalize medical marijuana, Orrin Hatch put a rider on, he put a rider on the military, or I think it was a military funding bill, that prohibited spending any federal money to change the drug laws, which they interpreted as they couldn't spend the money to count the votes. The people of D.C. voted to legalize medical use of marijuana in D.C. back in probably 1997, and votes were not counted because Orrin Hatch prohibited spending money to count the votes. And then when I found out about the political ties between the Semblers and Orrin Hatch, I'm like, I wasn't paranoid. That this is real. These evil, sadistic bastards who could deny a child the bathroom privilege really are the people behind these other horrid policies.
Right.
And that is what really inspired me to do it. And plus, you know, Wes's fire in the belly, which was driven by the harm that they did to his son. Yeah. And just as much as that, by having convinced him so much that he was their biggest booster and their best fundraiser until he found out what they were doing to his son. And he wanted to spread the word, and he just didn't have the technical education and expertise to put it on the net. I just put his work on the net. You know, I helped him put it online. Oh, yeah. You know, and when he first asked me, he said, well, what do you think about having a reunion of straight survivors? And I said, well, that sounds about like as much fun as an all-night root canal.
Yeah.
I don't really want to hang out with these people. I don't like these people. I didn't like them then. I cut my own foot off, you know, rhetorically to get away from this. No, why? It's because I think that you have legitimate legal action to be taken, but you have to get together and share stories and find out what the action is, what the facts are, in order to bring justice. And I said, well, if you want to go on believing that, go on believing that. But I think that just having people talk together and, you know, employ the fourth estate of government, the media. I still don't have a whole lot of faith in the litigative and legislative remedies. However, any effort to bring about legislative and litigative remedy necessarily bring about chatter.
Right.
And dialogue. And that has inspired me. And as ugly as things have gotten on Hornets, and often enough on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else too, still it's a healthy dialogue.
Right.
People telling their story. Even, I mean, the Elan people, and we have all said, what the hell happened to those people? What happened in that space? Because we all carry our damage and our scars. And I mean, those people are like, really, what happened to you? That, right? Even with that dialogue that most people can't stomach and can't hang and can't tough out, right now, they've got a federal investigation, not a federal investigation, a local investigation into a 33-year-old murder.
Right, I read about that.
Yeah, Phil Williams.
Phil Williams?
Phil Williams was the child's name. He was put in the ring, the infamous Elan ring, where a smaller kid would be paired up with a bigger kid with 20-ounce boxing gloves and 1-minute rounds, and then another first larger kid with 20-ounce boxing gloves. Turns out Phil Williams was put in the ring for faking a headache. And he died. His family were told that he died of natural causes. It was a brain aneurysm.
Oh, wow.
They only found out just, you know, whenever Mark Babbitts and Matt Hoffman got a hold of them. That's when they found out that their brother, son, you know, family member might have been murdered.
Wow.
That is what inspires
Matt.
me.
He's done a lot exposing Elan. He's done a good job.
Oh, and they have been on it for years and years under their real names, never given up. And finally, it has come to pass. You know, everything came together. The right person with the right expertise and the right skill set got the right document to the right authorities, and now it's happening. And yeah, that I had hoped for that. I had hoped for that sort of thing to happen. That's what inspired me. That's what inspired me. I think that one of the rules, all of the rules, had to do with preventing us from communicating with one another and with the outside world with anybody else. And I thought, well, just remove that linchpin. Rampant talking out in group, and let's just see what happens. I often thought when I was in the program and I was being confronted or watching someone else be confronted brutally, for something, and that the conversation was like crazy land.
Yeah.
Well, let's take this conversation outside these walls into the more commonly accepted reality and see what happens. That's what I tried to do. That's what inspired me. I wanted to see for myself. If we can have this conversation without fear of repercussions like solitary confinement and denial of bathroom privileges or being started over to day one. If we can have this conversation under the general rules that we all accept in civil society, now let's see who wins.
Right.
And I still believe that. I still believe that if we can speak freely, then we can get justice.
Definitely. So, well, you said you were in a program, and I know you were. What was that experience, and what program were you in?
Well, my family became involved with the Seed in Fort Lauderdale in about 1970 when I was about 5 years old. So I was the younger sibling in the program, and they take over the family. My family ceased to exist, and we worshipped at the cult of Art Barker. By the time I was 15, the Seed they had lost their federal funding. They were under scrutiny and indictment and whatever. They shut down more or less. They reeled it into a very small cadre. And then some program parents and staff members, including the Semblers, Helen Peterman. Well, let me say the names. Melvin and Betty Sembler and Helen Peterman, Joe Zapala, all program parents, recruited some former Seed staff members and established the same program in the same building under the name Straight Incorporated. And that's where my parents sent me. And I spent years trying to escape Straight Incorporated. I did not graduate. I was trying to just get by until I could either turn 18 or graduate. About 3-4 months before my 18th birthday, things got so bad because the program was under investigation, and they turned up the heat. They got very paranoid. They became even more abusive, even more regimented. Everyone was an enemy, right? I just could not go along anymore and keep my head down. I split. Yeah. I split. I ran away from that. And then there was still kidnapping attempts, and I was charged. I was extradited from the state of Georgia for being a chronic runaway in the state of Florida.
Wow.
Because they couldn't arrest me in Georgia, because in Georgia the age of emancipation was 17. I was a legal adult. They extradited me. They don't extradite car thieves.
Wow.
So there was still a battle just to get out, and just to get free.
When did you start Hornets?
Well, I actually started Hornets in 1993 as a way of learning website development. The World Wide Web was brand new then, and I wanted to learn it. I wanted to figure out a way to make money at it because I wanted to do it full time. But it had nothing to do with the program until 2000.
Oh, wow.
And I went Wes had his thing. He wanted this forum. He was trying to get a Usenet forum started and could not get interest enough on Usenet to get traffic and to get users and make it, public, bring it to attention. So the trouble here is that the audience that you want to reach are really the AOL audience. So what to do is give them a platform that they can use and will find it's in their path, but with Usenet rules.
Right.
So that if, for example, we set this up as the original name was not Hornets, it was Dire Straits.
Oh, I like that.
Because that's all we knew about. We didn't know about WASP, and we didn't know. And soon enough, we started finding out about WASP programs and Elon and all of these other programs. But as soon as you found a forum where people were talking, they were shut down. All it took was one complaint. And their legal department looked at it one time and went, well, we're not even going to bother with investigating litigation. Well, we've got a delete key right here.
Right.
So I said, okay, all comers. I changed the name to Hornets Home for Wayward Web Forums. And when all comers, if you need to talk, you need a forum on your program or all programs or whatever, here we go. And it grew very quickly. And it was very interesting. I mean, because they sent a demand letter to my host, and I chose the hosting provider. I chose Bare Metal because they were hosting Media Awareness Project and Drug Policy Foundation and Drug Policy Forum. And I knew that they would not back down on a First Amendment issue, even though they're Canadian. Right. And it grew from there, At one point, we were having 300,000 hits, unique visitors a month.
Wow.
To that site. And it just exploded. There was just a whole lot more interest than I ever imagined.
How about the wiki? Yeah, the Hornets wiki. When did you get that going, and is it still going?
It is still there. It is still occasionally updated. I had nothing to do with it. Oscar Overfoot took an interest and wanted a wiki set up, and I think it was Michael Crawford who had the expertise in that end of it. I said, yeah, go ahead, set it up.
That's really useful. We use it a lot.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
We do. Yeah, I use it a lot when I'm doing searches, especially when it's a program that's not on our watch list. I always go to Hornets Wiki first to see if you guys have anything on it, if it's not on our watch list yet. And if you do, I'm like, oh, great, I can just give this to the person who's asking.
Oh, that's cool. Now, do you ever communicate with Oscar and maybe update the site with new information?
I don't think I know Oscar. I know Karsten.
Karsten. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Oscar's another feller. I got his name wrong. I have to apologize to him now.
So you're talking about Karsten?
Yeah, Karsten. Karsten
Okay. I don't know. I don't know if he follows what we're doing or not. We're friends on Facebook, and he might update when we update. But I try to alert everybody on Facebook and Twitter, wherever, when we update a staff list so people know there's new information. What I'm doing with the staff list now, and what we're doing is we're getting if they're licensed, if the individual or any individual staff are licensed as anything, a nurse, psychologist, what have you, or, just a drug counselor, because that's the easiest thing to get licensed for. You don't even have to have a college degree in most cases to become a drug counselor. You just have to have a high school diploma or equivalent.
Yeah, I don't have a great deal of faith in licensing. And again, but efforts to bring about licensure requirements and regulations do generate dialogue, and the dialogue is what I'm after.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something, very visceral experience. When I was still in straight, and we were aware that there was an investigation going on, they couldn't help us finding out because they sent investigators in to question us. That's all we knew. They asked a half a dozen weird questions. We were under the gun to answer in a way that was honest, because honesty is the first and most important rule, but that would not get our asses kicked or started over, which was impossible.
Right.
You know, always, everything was a double bind. You know, how do you feel today? That was a double bind, believe me. Right?
Yeah.
At the end of it, as far as we knew, the end of our awareness that anybody who was trying to help was a damn 8x10 piece of paper taped to the wall in big red block letters. It said, if you see abuse, call 1-800-TALK-SHIT.
Wow.
They forgot to do something about the fact that if I grabbed a phone, I would get my ass kicked.
Right.
It was demoralizing. Because when those signs went up, we knew everybody went, okay, problem solved, we're going home now.
And that continues today. That's a big part of it is, well, we'll write a correction plan. You've said we've made these errors. So we're going to make a little correction plan and send it to the Joint Commission or whomever happens to be the accreditation agency. And they'll sign off on it. And we'll just keep doing what we do. And that's, yeah, it's not acceptable.
Well, it's not acceptable. And I think, you know, I mean, bless everybody's heart who is carrying out these efforts and putting so much energy and so much heart and time into it. And every minute you put into it, you take away from something else.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that deeply. But I don't think that the regulation licensing itself is going to do a damn bit of good. It's the awareness. It's for this to come into the public conscience in a way that sane people know that anybody trying to sell you a service that will repair your child is selling you snake oil.
Right.
You know? I remember being very much encouraged when I started investigating and interviewing people and just more or less randomly going, did you know about the seed? What did you think about it? And one parent told me that somebody had approached him and tried to sell him on the idea of sending his kid to a program, and he went, you're nuts. I'm not sending my kid to you. I went, my God, there are people out there who can see through this. That is so encouraging. And I hope it's the majority.
Me too.
And that still is my objective, to make that the majority.
I think that's a great objective. And I'd like that to be the case too. We're working on it. We've got our public information campaign. That's what the whole Heal side is, basically. It's one big public information campaign. And
I have seen great progress. I am so encouraged and impressed by what Jody Hobbs is doing with Sia. I mean, she has shaken hands and made solid connections in the public mind with the plight of people abused by the Catholic diocese.
Right.
Because it is exactly the same model. It's the same abuse. It's the simple fact that no one will believe you if you tell them.
Right.
That lets them get away with it. And now she's not so much into the connections with the police brutality or anti-police brutality movement. I am.
Right.
That is also very, very similar. You know, there's just a whole swath, huge class of people who can be wantonly abused, raped, even murdered in broad daylight on camera.
Right.
And just the other day, I talked to someone who said they watched the Eric Garner murder and still said they were in fear for their lives. system justification,
Right.
right? But at the same time, as dark as that is and as scary as that is, I'm just very, very much encouraged by the fact that more and more people are starting to notice and pay attention to this.
Right.
You know?
That's great.
I'm emboldened to do more.
Good.